afternoon and welcome to today's roundtable discussion with Midwest Market Management. I'm Brenda Oft, and today I am joined by Clint McLaughlin, Rich Berg, and Stu Hughes to discuss today's April USDA supply and demand report. On today's report, the USDA released U.S. stock numbers as well as world production and stock estimates. Clint, would you like to start us out today with the wheat numbers?
Sure, Brenda. Report was going into the report, wheat was a little bit firmer and then started fading as the report got closer, and the initial reaction was, moved 10 lower or so. And then, shortly after the report, it did get some traction, and we got back to about even to maybe slightly positive territory, and then ended up a little bit weaker here on the day. I didn't really see anything in the report that was just like a game-changing event here. U.S. ending stocks for wheat for the current marketing year were raised 30 million bushels. So we went from 568 to 598 in the whole all wheat category for ending stocks. So again, nothing super significant in changes there. Some of the differences that I found, imports were raised by 5 million in the all wheat category. They reduced domestic usage and exports by 25 million. So that was in the all wheat category. We saw an increase of 30 million bushels in ending stocks. That mostly came, we saw the hard red winter wheat was down 11 and the soft winter wheat was down 14 million. So we actually, for their ending stocks, so actually decreases there. The increases are coming from white wheat, spring wheat, and durum. So it looks like they're anticipating larger production there. So that's the main things I saw on the U.S. front. On the global front, the world ending stocks were down 2 million metric tons. So nothing significant there. So back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Clint. Rich, would you like to cover soybeans?
Sure. Beans are pretty easy on this report. When it comes to the U.S. Balance sheet, the government did not change a thing. The expectations were for a slight drop in ending stocks due to the stocks number at the end of March, but the government did not change anything and left the ending stocks the same at 210 million bushels. On the South American front, they did make a few changes. They increased the Brazil crop size by 1 million metric ton. They brought it up to 154 million metric ton, and that was pretty close to the estimate of 153.4. On the Argentina production, they did drop it significantly. They went down to 27 million metric ton, and that was down 6 million metric ton from the last government report at 33, and the estimate was 29 million metric tons. So they were 2 million metric tons less than what the estimates were. As far as the world ending stocks go, they actually kept them pretty static and even raised them a little bit. They came in at 100.3 million metric ton, and the last USDA number was 100. Expectations were for a drop down to 98.7. So that was somewhat negative. Chinese imports stayed the same at 96 million metric ton. For the meal balance sheet, they did make a couple changes. When it was just on the supply side, they decreased their production by 50,000 tons and increased imports by 50,000 tons. So the meal ending stocks stayed the same at 465,000 tons, and then for the oil ending stocks came in at 1.936 billion pounds. So overall, it was a pretty uneventful report going forward. There's a chance the Brazil crop could get bigger and the Argentina crop could get even smaller yet. So that just remains to be seen, and we'll still probably continue going forward here to just focus more on planting weather for the U.S.
Thank you, Rich. Stu, can you share what the report had to say for corn today?
pretty similar to beans, a whole lot of nothing today. I'm going into the report. I expected the USDA to maybe take exports up a smidge, take ethanol down by an equal amount, and maybe make some adjustments in the feed numbers because they just got a stocks number here just 10, 12 days ago. But the only changes they made is they took imports down 10 million bushels and took food seed industrial use down 10 million for a net zero change. So they did elect to leave all the major demand components unchanged. Export shipments are running behind the pace that we need, but we had some pretty decent Chinese purchases here a couple of weeks ago. So maybe that prompted them to elect to leave exports alone. Ethanol, we probably got some time. We're getting driving season. Maybe they think that they're optimistic that ethanol is going to pick up. It's running roughly 2 million bushels a week, below what it needs to be. Feed demand, our hog herd's about the same size as last year. Our cattle herd's probably 4 or 5% less than a year ago. I think poultry numbers have rebounded, so maybe that was another reason why they elected to leave the feed numbers alone. But big picture, they didn't change the carry out from last month. The expectation was only to take it down 26 million bushels anyway. So 134 is our current carry out that we're working with now. South America, they left South America alone. Of course, that safrinha crop has just gotten planted here in the last 3 to 5 weeks. So a little early in the to maybe make a bet on what that safrinha crop's like. Argentina, though, they did cut that 235 million bushels from last month, which takes them down to about a 1.45 billion bushel crop. They grew 1.8 last year, so it's a pretty significant cut in production. They're down about 25% from last year. So all that put together, the world ending stocks number was right on the average guess. So all in all, really wasn't much to talk about. I think the market reacted a little negative because there just wasn't really anything in there to work with. But by the end of the day, May corn floated back to that 651 area, if I remember correctly. And that's kind of technically where May corn wants to leave. So Goldman rolls underway. So the July contract will be the top step, and will attract the most attention. You start to see some processors move their bids to the July, and I didn't see the report really change anything now. Cash market and basis and strong spreads are telling you what you need to know about U.S. ending stocks.
All right, thank you, Stu. Gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to open up the discussion if there's any numbers or any other topics you'd like to discuss in further detail at this time. Anybody want to stick their neck out there and talk about spring planting quick, what their expectations are there? Seeing any progress?
Well, if you want to get bullish, I got a Snapchat from a friend of mine in Hannaford, North Dakota. They had a ditch that they were actually taking a track hoe, and they were digging a trench to let the water run when it does melt. He said the ditch yesterday had about 13 foot of snow in it, and it's warmed up there, and their snow has actually shrunk up. It was probably maybe 5, 6 foot deep yet in that drainage ditch. So they got a lot of snow to melt off up in that part of the country, but it's still April 11th. They've got some time, and their flooding doesn't look that bad. I didn't know if Clint had heard from his guys in Mississippi if they've caught up on planning, but according to progress numbers, they have. So I'd expect some good progress, probably up to I-70 this week. I have one guy in this area who's going to start today, but most everybody's going to wait first and let the calendar turn here a little bit before they plant corn around here.
Yeah, I find it interesting on the wheat front. We have a historical spread between July Chicago and July Kansas City. That's running hit $1.70 today. To my knowledge, that's the largest that spread's ever been. But we've got a soft red winter wheat that's in pretty good condition. They've had a lot of rain over the winter, and so plenty of moisture there. And as everybody well knows, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, all, have been experiencing very dry conditions, with some of the panhandle in Oklahoma being, in multiple year droughts now. So that's gonna, current obviously is, lending a supportive hand to Kansas City. It's just, for me, it's a difficult thing to try to navigate, as to where wheat prices need to be, because, overall, I think in the end game, we'll probably have enough wheat to go around, but we might have some isolated issues in some of these intra-market situations. The other thing that I think is important to note as far as the Kansas City wheat market goes is we had a lot of acres this year, but a lot of those acres were up very large in Texas, and I don't think that those acres will ever intended to go to grain. Also, that was probably done in a last ditch effort to get some forage for cattle. So I don't think those acres will really actually go to grain. So it'll be interesting to see. We're getting to a pretty critical phase here where these guys need some moisture on the wheat coming out of dormancy here, or there's going to be more problems continuing to show. So it'll be interesting to see if that historical spread between Kansas City and Chicago continues, or you would think we would be, towards the top end of that here and now. But anyway, just something I found interesting.
All right, well, thank you. Well, if there's nothing else to discuss at this moment, I want to thank you all for your insight today. And thank you everybody for joining us. Remember to check our website, midwestmarketmanagement.com, or visit our Facebook page for up-to-date information. And watch for our next roundtable discussion on May 12th. Have a good day.